Heart first leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome back to the Integrated Mindset Podcast. I am Ryan Sawyer, your co-host and here alongside with my wife, Heidi Sawyer. We are going to have a conversation today about understanding how what we believe we deserve creates our experience and potentially even impacts certain outcomes in life. I've seen these type of things pop up in our past. I'm not exactly sure what stories we're going to tell, but we're going to just see where this authentically goes and see how it pops up for us. So, this is beneath the surface, this conversation of understanding that what is going on beneath the surface is what's which is creating our experience of life, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to each other in a relationship, in a marriage, to our children, what we project to the world. Therefore, then what's reflected back to us and kind of that mirror, that experience of looking in the mirror. You may not be aware, most likely you are not aware of what's happening underneath the surface that's creating. And I have a very real story that I can be able to illuminate here in this conversation, that once I realized, like, oh my goodness, that belief is in there. And that's what's creating my behaviors, my reactions. Legitimately, my worst fear is being lived out. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm back in another season of life right now where we're pushing. And so we're doing something maybe a little bit bigger than I've done before. And so those things that are underneath the surface are popping up. They're bubbling. Yeah.
They tend to show up when we are pushing outside of our known zone. We talked about that before, the known zone being the term for what some people call the comfort zone, or what we've done in the past.
So I wanted to just a little disclaimer before we dive into any story, and then I want to give you the space, Heidi, to share anything that you have before I tell a story or two. This is much deeper than positive thinking. This is not affirmation work. This is not like, oh, I can do it, or I believe in myself. This is the underlining myths, messages, and beliefs that are playing out in our lives. And we're not going to potentially go down the road of like understanding how to like get to those, but just going to build an awareness around that these are playing a role. And the gift is, if we are courageous enough as a self-leader, as part of a marriage, or as a parent, to do this work, we can legitimately heal ourselves, and we can then create a whole different experience of life, a different experience of ourselves, deeper connection, more passion, a clearer sense of purpose and meaning in life. Like, wow, all of these things that we're really, really after, that we really, really desire, will play out naturally. We'll begin to actually maybe we're right now in a situation where, if you're listening to this, there's things, and we all can raise our hand and agree to this. Like, we all want something to be different, right? We all want more connection. We all want a deeper sense of who we truly are and our authenticity. We all want to know that our life has meaning and we can contribute to make a difference and be significant. So we're all in that place. And so what's keeping us from that is what has me up at night. And be curious, like, in what ways am I limiting myself? In what ways am I in my own way? And keeping me from the experience that we all deserve, right? So the topic today is like, well, first of all, before we go any further, like, we all deserve, however you want to say this word. I'm not a big fan of this phrase, but I heard it the other day, all of God's riches, right? Mm-hmm. We all deserve an abundant life, a life of joy. And abundance does not necessarily mean money, you guys. I mean, it could, translate into money.
An abundance of love, an abundance of happiness, connection.
Meaning. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's all comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to share before and if you're okay, I'm going to actually ask for your blessing to kind of share part of our story from the past a little bit. So I'm going to kind of dig up some stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't tell you what we were going to talk about before we hit record.
I know, but it's interesting that you're saying this, because when we were preparing to get on the call, I just had this quiet prayer to say, I don't even know what you're about to say, but I can just feel it, to say, God, please use us to reach someone who needs to hear whatever we have to say today.
Yeah. Use us as a vehicle.
Yeah. And so, yes, you have my blessing to say whatever that is. And I know, because you're asking me, that it's probably something that is part of our personal story, but these are the things that can help other people.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
they're not who we are anymore. Right. So I don't sit here and they've been forgiven and moved past. Right. So, but they still have a little bit of pain behind them. And, yeah, it's funny you said that you had that prayer, because I had the exact same prayer. So here we are. All right. Let's not waste any more of your time. Thank you for listening. By the way, we appreciate it. This is episode 30, I think, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do something that was really meaningful as we turn 30. So I don't remember timeline of when this was happening. And I'm not going to tell all the details. It'll probably come out in another podcast. But there was a time where Heidi and I were venturing towards the end of our marriage. And it was happening quite rapidly. And I was making poor decisions. And it was after I left coaching. So it was after 2015. So it was 7 years ago or so. And
after you left football coaching, right? Just to clarify,
I assume that people
you are
know
a coach now.
Yeah, I left. I was coaching college football, and I walked away from my college coaching career and thinking that was going to change things. And I was battling with severe depression and panic attacks, and I had gone through this massive transformation, and so I left my job. We had built just recently had moved into a fairly newly built home, and we kept trying to change things, on the outside, right? And there was this one experience, and I'm not even sure if I've ever told you this story, but I was living in a life where I was constantly seeking outside of myself for some sense of acknowledgement and approval. And I began to seek in other places for that acknowledgement outside of our relationship. I'll leave it at that. And there was this day where I was standing out in our front yard of our home there up in Cheney by Airway Heights Golf Course. And I couldn't get a hold of you. You weren't answering your phone. And it was abnormal for you to not answer your phone. And it was in the afternoon. So I think you were picking the kids up from school. And so I'm getting nervous. Like, why isn't she answering her phone? She should answer her phone. She should have the kids with her. Like, I started, oh my gosh, there's something wrong. Right. So a bit of a narrative had popped up in my head that something happened to you and the kids, you got in a car accident or whatever. Right. 30 or 45 minutes has gone by now at this point. And I have now called like 6 or 7 times because it was at that time of day where I know you were usually available and you would usually just answer my phone call. And even though you and I
remember this at all.
Yeah, I never told you. So even though you and I were not in a great place in our relationship and we're kind of questioning, right? And we were just about to move out of our current house we had just recently had built, and we were selling that and moving to the valley because, again, it was about us changing everything outside of ourselves and not looking inward, right? We're still in that place of thinking, well, if we change our jobs and we change our body and we change where we live and we change all these environmental things, then, but the reality is you can buy a new car, but you're still the same man that you were in the old car and the new car, right? Mm-hmm. You can buy a new house, you can get a new job, but you're still the same version of you. So anyway, I'm standing out there and now I'm kind of, I'm a little bit nervous, right? Like I'm kind of spinning a little bit and I get called up to like 6 or 7 times, and I'm pacing in the front yard. And this overwhelming fear that I have lost my family. Like there's something has clearly happened to my family, to my kids, to my wife. And in that moment, I was like, I don't want that to happen, right? There's this visceral experience of like, oh my goodness, I don't want to lose them. Even though in all reality, I was losing you already.
Yeah.
There was this coming to Jesus moment where I was like, I got to do whatever it takes to fight for them. And this voice comes in, which this is a voice, you guys, that only pops in occasionally, right? For us human beings. Maybe some of us are so well connected that you hear it all the time. I've only heard it a handful of times, and I've never actually spoke about this one before to anybody. So here I am recording a podcast about it. So it comes in and goes, well, you're getting what you've always thought you deserved. And I've heard this voice. Like, I'm like, what? You don't deserve this. You have this belief that you don't deserve to be happy. You have this belief that even when you got married, even the day you got married, with all this optimism and all these possibilities, and when you had your babies, you had this underlying way down in the depths, this belief that sooner or later you're going to screw it up. And here you are. You screwed it up. You're going to lose your family. And so that landed on me like a ton of bricks. It landed on me like a ton of bricks. And I realized, like, oh my goodness, I'm actually playing out what I believe I deserve. I believe I don't deserve my wife. I believe I don't deserve to be happy. I believe that everything, on the surface that we think we want, right? We think we want the nice home. We think we want the beautiful marriage. We think we want and we do. We want these things. Of course we do. We want the healthy and happy kids, but yet there was something underneath that was deeply rooted in me that said I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve to be happy. So I was sabotaging it, unconsciously sabotaging my life and my marriage, because I was going to play out unconsciously. I was going to play out this belief. And that made me question everything. It took a while for us to come to our actual rock bottom. That wasn't rock bottom. You and I had to go through a little bit more trial before we were like, okay, what are we doing here next? But as I am pulling back again in this moment, I have seen it play out with people in my life. I've seen it play out with friends. I've seen it play out. I'm seeing it play out currently with somebody, and I'm seeing it play out again. Not here. We're fine people. My wife and I are wonderful. We've never been better. But not in my marriage, not in my family, but from I hate this word, but a money mindset, or this phrase, a money mindset kind of business perspective, right? We had a 5-hour session yesterday with a business coach, creating goals and clarity of vision and decisions that had to be made and all these types of things. And the little thing inside of me was like, oh no, but it's supposed to be hard. I have this belief, right, that you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Right. And that life's a grind, right? And I'm attached to this grinder version of myself.
That's tough when you've gotten results that way.
Yeah. So I'm right now, like, pulling back, and this morning in meditation, I realized, like, again, Ryan, like, I'm going to challenge you on that one. I'm going to challenge my higher self. It's going to challenge this lower self, this separate self that says, like, I don't believe it has to be hard. I believe that it's going to be what you think you deserve. what you believe you deserve, not what you think you deserve, because thinking's up in the surface of the chop. I'm talking about what's all the way down at the bottom of the ocean. It's rooted in you. That's not allowing for the business to expand, not allowing for the right people to show up, not allowing for a new and different free expression of yourself to be realized, or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not going to try to get all esoteric here, but anyway, I think it's important, as we look at our lives, to say what we're leaning into, what we're trying to take on, what we are currently experiencing that wants to be different. Like, man, what if we took this? What if we just dropped the veil and we took 100% responsibility? And we said, how am I potentially, maybe have access to it right away? And again, we're not going to sit here and teach you how to uncover your shadow, but how am I unconsciously creating these experience in my life, in relationship mainly? I think business and relationship, because if you're a small business owner or any sort of entrepreneurial type of mind, right, the experience of running such business and the experience of being in such marriage or relationship is a reflection upon what you think about yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that could go for people who are in a career also, like upper limiting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with regards to like promotion
100%.
And what's possible for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're an employee who is constantly in fear of being fired, is it possible that you make some unconscious, and again, you're not consciously doing this, you're unconsciously potentially sabotaging yourself to where you're going to live out that fear of either being fired or not being promoted or being passed up or being replaced. And you unconsciously have done things, said things, made decisions, or not done things that now affirms it.
We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show.
Right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's in the things that we avoid doing.
Right. It's more about what you don't do than what you do.
Right. That are necessary, like either within the role of our career or business or within the role of being a partner, right? It's like those times that we don't believe we're worthy of the type of marriage or relationship that we want, that we avoid the other person, or we don't connect, or we do unconsciously sabotage in some way, whether that's breaking trust in some way, financially, and other types of infidelity, like all of that. Those are all things that happen. And it doesn't seem related really to the belief until you really get to the bottom of it and you go like, well, why would I do that? Why would I ruin something unless I believe that it wasn't for me?
I mean, like, we're all human beings, so each and every single one of us deeply longs for connection. But if you have some sort of belief that you're not lovable, right, and your significant other reaches out to try to show you affection and connect with you in a way maybe they haven't in a long time, or whatever, you might find yourself resisting that connection. That hug is something as simple as a hug. You might be like, this is weird.
That's how I was in the past. And it's so interesting now, to have, just done a tremendous amount of work and healing on myself, to be hearing you say, I used to try to give you a hug and you wouldn't hug me. Right. I mean,
you're speaking about you and me
in the past. Yeah. In the past.
Years ago.
Right.
And even after we were on the mend and coming back to each other, it was a long road to where we are.
Yeah.
And on that road, there was a lot of times where if I would have taken it personally that you couldn't open up and give me a hug, I mean, like something as simple as a hug, you wouldn't do it. Even when I try to hug you, you would not hug me back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure your arms were around me, but you guys know what I'm talking about, where somebody is really hugging you and somebody is just standing next to you.
It's like when you're having a conversation with someone and they're really intently looking in your eyes and connecting with you versus they're just sort of physically there, but mentally somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that there was something inside of you that wasn't ready to receive the love or feel the love or didn't feel lovable enough to even connect in that way, in an affectionate way at all. And therefore then you resisted it when I would lean in. Now here's the scary piece, right? It's not about me, right? So as I am mending my own internal disturbances and separateness, as I'm mending these things and becoming more whole, like it's easier for me I feel more connected to myself. Therefore, I'm then wanting to share and express that outwardly. Right. So it's a natural progression. The more you feel love for yourself internally, the more you want to express it with your loved ones around
sometimes you. And let's not twist it either, because sometimes for different people, they express differently. So there could be a internal disturbance or feeling of not being good enough, lovable, inadequate in some way inside a person, which could cause them to do one of two things, right? The first one is they kind of shut down and aren't truly responsive, like what I was doing at that time.
Yeah.
Or they could reach out more, trying to get the other person to meet their needs, trying to have that person's love fill that hole within themselves where they're missing that love and connection.
Okay. So can you put a pin in that for me? Because I want to finish put a pin in that for me. So the experience that we have to keep it reminding ourselves of is that it's our own work to do. And then here's the thing. I can't take it personally because when you weren't hugging me back, I could easily make that mean, oh, she doesn't love me. Right? I don't do it for her. Right? I'm not good enough for her. I don't turn her on. I don't light up her switches. Right. And so that's the scary dance, is that, the projection of your shadow, I make it mean something.
Yeah.
I make it mean something about me. Right.
You can have one person reaching out of a place of their own sense of lack within themselves, and another person shutting down or resisting out of their own sense of lack or unworthiness within themselves. And now you have this invisible dance that's going on where both people feel misunderstood. Both people don't feel that they're getting their needs met because they don't understand how to meet their own needs. Yeah. And that's really where we were. But it does boil down to that. What do you believe about yourself? What's your self-concept?
Yeah.
What do you believe you deserve? And that's going to dictate every other action, conscious or unconscious, that you take.
Well, again, a reminder in case you don't know this, right? What are the percentages? I mean, I don't like percentages. Let's just go with the generic percentage of 95% unconscious and 5% conscious. You could argue with other people in different realms of neuroscience or whatever that it might be, in some people, 98 or 99%, right? Of our habitual patterns, thinking, feeling, behaving, reacting is out of our conscious awareness. Now, it doesn't mean we can't consciously bring it into a workshop and work on it. We can bring the unconscious mind into the conscious workshop and begin to work on it, right? But if you do have a belief that's underlining you're not aware of, that you don't deserve X, Y, or Z, financial, business, relationship, connection, happiness, joy, whatever it is, like you're going to play out that self concept. And this is a conversation that, like, legitimately, I'm going to have this conversation with our team for our residential painting company. Like we're expanding, we're going to multiple, more crews, and the goal is to get to 3 and 4 crews and beyond, and all these different things, these new roles, these new responsibilities will be asked of people, and we will grow at the rate of each of us as the collective concept, right? Mm-hmm. Which is each and every individual that's a part of that team working on their self-concept.
Right. Believing they can step into that leadership and that they have what it takes to meet the goals.
Yeah. And to uncover if there is something that's limiting them, like they're a fear of something of sorts, that they're realizing like, oh, that's my work to do, because
right.
Unless you want that to play out, like has nothing to do with me as the employer. It has everything to do with the individual. And you've heard this term before, is related back to sports, which I always easily do. Like your team is only as strong as the weakest link. Right. And so there's some truth to that, in the sense that, if you're looking to grow your family bond or whatever it is, right. That whatever is the weakest belief, the most dominant, prominent belief, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what projects, is what gets projected by the unconscious.
Yeah.
You might have a thought of, oh no, I deserve this, or I'm worthy of this, or I know I'm good at something. I know I'm doing a good job. But if the underlying feeling that is being expressed is one of unworthiness, that's the one that gets projected out and lived out, right? And so there can be 2 competing voices happening there, but the one that's underneath, that's the strongest and the most prominent, is the one that gets expressed.
Yeah. Gay Hendricks talks about this in his book, The Big Leap. He calls it upper limiting. We upper limit ourselves. And one of the ways that I like to think about this, and big leaps can happen in many different ways. Like you said, career, business, relationship, wherever it is that you want something to be different than it currently is. And you need to match your self-concept from not where you've been, but to where you're going. Yeah. Right. And, I think of it too as like a thermostat, right? Mm-hmm. You set the thermostat and it's kind of set at a certain temperature, 60 degrees. And you start to bring that temperature up, and that thermostat is like your self-concept. It's going to kick that heat off and bring it down, right? It's going to bring it back down to wherever the set dial is. So to change the self-concept, to change what you believe you are worthy of, is to change that thermostat and to raise that bar for yourself, so that when things are happening unconsciously, when, think about how many things you do on autopilot, just to illustrate your point, how many things you do on autopilot without your conscious awareness. I guarantee you go out to your vehicle and you get in, you're not thinking to yourself, okay, so at first I need to put my seatbelt on. And then next I need to put the car in gear. And then, better make sure my headlights are on, and I check the rear view mirror. You're not doing any of that. It's all happening automatically. It's all happening unconsciously, because it's a pattern. And so that's really what we're talking about, is patterns of thinking, believing, and acting and being that are related to old self-concepts, old myths, messages, or beliefs that you took on about yourself that are not the truth of who you are, and do not have to be the dictator for where you're going. Right. So we've got to be able to change that thermostat. And sometimes it does take a rock bottom moment to realize that, oh my gosh, holy cow, I've been sabotaging everything that I wanted in my life. And then there's some work to do.
Yeah. That was amazing. You're amazing. Yeah, 100%. Like, have you ever been driving a car and you wanted to go to the grocery store on the way home from picking up the kids? Mm-hmm. And then the next thing you realize, you're in the garage. And you're like, oh,
wait a minute.
Wait a minute. I forgot what I was doing.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's your autopilot. That's actually a lot of the work that we do with people, because it's been so transformative for us. It's like understanding where your default settings are when it comes to your self-concept, when it comes to your belief of what's possible for you in your life. And once you understand how those settings are and where they are, and you can start to set your GPS to a new destination, then you can start to reroute. You can start to change those things. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens through small incremental shifts in your daily actions. And it comes from building awareness around what's happening for you internally. So when you find yourself in a situation where it's different than what you want it to be, or you're wishing for someone or something to be different than it is, then that's a point of inspection. That's a point of check-in for yourself to say, okay, what am I wanting to be different here? And is my focus on something external, like trying to change my partner, trying to change, something about what somebody else is doing or something that I'm having in my life, rather than changing the way that I'm having it? Right? Because everything is about perception, and two people can have the same exact identical circumstances and see it completely different. One person can believe that they're worthy of good things, have a positive attitude, at the core, know that things are working out for the highest good for them, and they can find the gift in that circumstance. And another person can believe that bad things are going to happen and that things never work out for them. And they will find the absolute worst in that experience. And that breaks my heart, because
the actual circumstance is the same as yours.
The circumstance is the same, but it's just two different lenses, right? It's that core belief, that core self-concept that someone has is going to dictate how they're going to see a challenge. And it breaks my heart to see people having a lot of unnecessary suffering because their thermostat is set somewhere that's not the truth of who they are, right? And they're having trouble getting beyond that and finding the gift and realizing that everything that's happening is there to teach them something, is there to help them shape that self-concept, is there to help them heal and to grow and transcend where they've been before. Were you just processing what I said?
I'm just in awe watching you. I'm just having a blast listening to you. Yeah. So you let go, you recognize when something is playing out in an undesirable way, and you notice what's happening internally, and you begin to be curious about what else is possible, what else could be true. If it's not true for everybody, I'm just going to tell you this, guys. There's a difference between stories and laws. There's laws that govern our lives. They're absolutely unchangeable.
One of them is gravity.
Yeah, that's a universal law.
Yeah. So, I mean, gravity is happening whether you agree with it or not. Law of cause and
effect, a law of polarity, a law of vibration. I mean, right. Law of attraction, which is basically a law of vibration. We said
we're going to do a series on these eventually, or at least the ones that we're most familiar with. But
law of non-resistance, the law of health, the law of growth, the law of anyway, whatever. I have a whole list of them. I've studied them all, but it doesn't matter. There's a difference between law and story.
Mm-hmm.
We should live our life based upon law, and one would call it God's law, right? That God created to govern the universe, so the universe would be able to continue to expand and be able to be self-sufficient in a way, right? Then there's stories, right? And so, like, legitimately, it comes down to, well, if it's not true for everybody, like if there's an exception, if there's somebody out there who's bucking the trend, then is it possible that it's not true for me either? Right? Oh, it's just a story that I tell myself, and then I affirm because I look to see the proof And the confirmation out there in the world, they go, see, yeah, I told you.
And you create your own proof through self-sabotage and things that you do unconsciously to prove to yourself, see, I'm not good enough. See, I messed it up again.
Yeah, I don't deserve to be happy.
Yeah. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But like you said, understanding the difference between when you're telling yourself a story that's not serving you versus.
Yeah. So you recognize the story, you let go of the story, right? Now, this is very surface level how I'm going to explain this, but it's so everybody can understand, because we go deep, right? When we coach, when we work with people, when we work with individuals, with couples, with parents, with leaders, whoever it is, we go deep, right? So if you want to go deep, reach out, because we're going deep.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting out of the story. Okay. That's the surface chop of the ocean. We're going to get you from being up there in the surface chop to going beneath, and understanding that we first let go of the story, right? Then we learn how, by going within, how to actually meet our own needs, how to actually come to this place of having a safe harbor internally that doesn't need the approval or the acknowledgement of anything or anyone outside of us. Which imagine being in your marriage and the kind of love that can be experienced when you say, I choose you rather than I need you. And I don't need you to acknowledge me, right? I'm able to. Now, is it still part of my basic human need? Does it still feel good? Yes, but I'm not going to strive and overcome and I'm not going to make it mean something if you don't acknowledge me. I did the dishes. You didn't say thank you. No, we're not keeping score, right? So you learn how to let go, meet your own needs from the inside out, kind of bring your self system to a place of homeostasis. And then from that place, and this is done through multiple different awareness exercises, mindfulness practices, breathing techniques, meditation, all the different things, visualization, legitimately letting go. And when you do, you then find this well of joy, this well of peace, this well of knowledge and abundance, right? And then from that place, you then are able to be very clear about the experience you want to have, the impact that's going to make, and the authentic action that you need to take to affirm the new narrative and or story or belief, right? So then you can actually rewrite, and like Heidi was speaking, you can move the thermostat, and it's done in incremental shifts. You're not going to go from a 60-degree thermostat to a 70-degree thermostat in one day, right? But you can go in doing some work. You can move it to 62, move it to 64, right? Up to 67. Wow, man, it's really warming up in here. I'm really starting to believe and change my self-concept. And I'm seeing the confirmation of that in the world. And I'm acting as if that version of myself is truly who I am. I'm being more patient. I'm being more receptive. I'm connecting better with my significant other. I'm exploring and taking risk in business like I never had before. And now things are coming back that's affirming this new self-concept. And because now I'm changing what I believe I deserve. And coming back full circle in this conversation. Every single human being on the face of this planet deserves to experience all of God's riches. But yet we have myths, messages, and beliefs that keep us from realizing that potential and that truth and experiencing it. So this becomes the most important thing you can do. It becomes more important than anything you can do out there, tangible in the world of achievement, accomplishment, and approval from anybody outside of yourself. It becomes why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So takeaways. I don't know unless she has something else. We have things to get to today.
Okay. Yeah. Takeaways. Yeah. And I just want to say, don't learn from our experience. Maybe you're in this place right now. Maybe your marriage is struggling. Maybe you have passed up opportunities to have promotions or grow your business or go for some type of new experience in your life that you deep down, really desire, and you wonder why you keep stopping yourself, or you wonder why it just doesn't seem to work out for you, or you pick the wrong partners or whatever that is, right? And you just are in that place. Learn from where you are. Learn from us, learn from our story. Don't let yourself get to that rock bottom moment before you start to build awareness around what's going on for you. And then have compassion for yourself for where you are, right? You put a new destination in your GPS. When you do that, you might be way off course right now. Mm-hmm. The GPS doesn't say, what the heck? You're an idiot. You're way over there and you're trying to go over here. It just says, okay, here's the next turn.
Mm-hmm. And there might be some construction on the way. You might have to take a detour.
Right. And there's going to be some roadblocks, right? But it's just taking that next step to continue to build awareness around what's showing up for you. And like Ryan said, not attaching to the story and identifying with wherever you are currently at or where your past experiences have been, but being more committed, excuse me, being more committed to where you're wanting to go.
Yeah.
And where you've been. And so some of the steps that just the shifts that you were talking about that I wrote down was for takeaways. Number one, like, I think I'm going to add one before this, is just like, take note of where you are.
Yeah.
Currently, take inventory of where you are. And
now you know why we start with that in the program.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then from there, what are the stories? What are the underlying beliefs that are not helping you get to where you're going? Because I'll tell you, if you're putting a destination in your GPS and then you're going to just sit on the side of the road and focus on the fact that, you're on the north side of town and you need to get to the south side of town, and you're going to beat yourself up about that and get all caught up in where you are, you're not going to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. So you've got to let go of the story long enough to get that next turn, to get that next point of direction. And that does take getting radically honest with yourself about, how you're showing up in this story and where it is that you want to end up, and what's the gap between where you are currently and where you're wanting to go. And that is, going to come from learning how to meet your own needs and being able to identify for yourself, the ways that you're potentially getting in your own way. And we've had to do this for ourselves, and we still continue to do this work all the time. What's the missing need here? What do I need to feel and believe and think about myself to be the person who takes that next step?
Okay, so then let me stop you there, because this is where most people stop, right? What do I need to think and feel about myself? Now listen, the subconscious mind, the part of you that plays out your experiences, your actions, your behaviors, only believes to be true what it feels to be true, which means you have to learn how to rewire that subconscious mind and suggest to it and feel it and visualize it and become it until the prominent underlining concept and belief is that the one that you want to experience. Like all the way down to the cells of your body, this has to be believed to be true. Mm-hmm. Right? So this is where faith can come in, but there's visualization. Yes, mantra and affirmation is fine, but that's still on the surface. You have to get it into your bones, right? And if you have enough courage to get a new concept and a new belief into your bones, I promise you it will manifest. The version of you will emerge. I promise.
Yeah.
So, actionable step. Because we did a takeaway, then we just kept going there.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I could just talk about this forever because
we'll do another podcast. We'll hit end, and we'll just, it's you guys are going to notice this. We create different titles for the podcast, but it's the same conversation over and over. It's a continuous conversation. And integrated human performance is this ability for us to integrated mindset, right? The company name is Integrated Human Performance, ihpcoaching.com. Go check it out. Get in our group. But it's ability for us to integrate and become aware of the inner and the outer world. Because when you do, that's when performance just happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, the more that you learn to do this, the more that the truth of you shines, what we call the golden shadow. It's able to actually emerge and shine. It impacts your environment. It completely changes and morphs your relationships. It completely gives and models a whole different way to live life for your children. And we're seeing it happen with our kids. They're like, my daughter goes, I want to be a songwriter. And she is down here legitimately last night at 8:00 at night, writing songs in my office. I just got an idea. Runs down to the basement to write us. I just got the best idea for a song. She's 8 years old, right? And I don't know if she's meant to be a songwriter or not, but maybe, you know what I mean? And it is that potential, and is that gift potentially covered up with some sort of limiting belief that keeps that from emerging. Maybe she never finds it, and maybe she finds it when she's 40 years old or something. Oh, I wish I was a songwriter, right? Whatever. But is it able to fully shine if you and I aren't in this work? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I tend to believe that the reason why, those type of things are emerging from our children that are very shining very brightly in their world, right? Where my son comes home and tells me that he's doing a workout at recess. And one of the kids comes over and goes, do you mind if I join you? And he teaches them how to box breathe. There's 2 10-year-olds in elementary school at recess doing a body weight exercise, and my son teaching the kid how to breathe. And I said, well, remember, son, make sure you teach them the mechanics of breathing first, because, that's where it starts. Okay, Dad, I will. Right. I mean, and I'm not tooting my own horn here. I'm saying this is what happens when we do the work. And so the takeaway and the actionable step is to lean into and just be curious. Start with curiosity always. And then you're going to have to practice some compassion. But curious is in what ways am I limiting myself? In what ways, what stories, what beliefs, what myths and messages are playing out? They're creating the experience of what I call life.
And you can start that process by looking at what in my life, what are 2 things in my life that I want to be different than they currently are?
Yeah, and just as a disclaimer, anybody who's listening, like this is right now, I'm in the muck and the mud of uncovering the next version of myself right now. And it's thick. Isn't it, Heidi? I mean, it's okay to tell people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not suffering, but it's cloudy in my world right now. In my head, it's cloudy.
But man, if you want to help your partner or your kids get to that next evolution of themselves, you've got to be solid. And that's my role right now, is just to be a solid rock in your life and continue to take turns creating that environment of growth for each other. Yeah. Right. And sometimes we're in it at the same time too, but it's like such a beautiful thing when you can do that for somebody else. And we're always going to continue to grow and evolve. But I think a good place to start is to look at, like, what are 2 areas in my life right now? 1 or 2, maybe just take 1. What's an area in my life right now I want something to be different than it is?
Yeah.
Could be a relationship
to myself, and relationship.
Could be your health,
to a significant other, in business, or my role as an employee, or what, pick a category and evaluate it. Take inventory. That's exactly right. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been going a while, so we'll save our thoughts for next time. So I'm going to drop it again. Head over ihpcoaching.com. We have a free community. It's growing every single day. Integrated human performance. There's free breath courses in there, other free meditations and movement things in there we're going to commit to this. We had this kind of idea this morning. We're going to start doing a free open forum coaching call in the community once a month. Hop on, ask a question. Heidi and I will be there, and other coaches that are in our community as well, and which is growing. So get in this and start doing the work. Like you don't have to dig to the depths of the ocean right out of the gate, but you start doing the work and you'll be able to dig deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah. There's no problem that can't be solved. There's nothing that can't be healed, transformed. I want you to know, if you're listening to this, you are already a person who is in a small percentage of people who understands how important personal development is, who understands how important healing is, who understands how important taking responsibility for your own life and your results is, because you're listening to this podcast. So really join the community, dive a little bit deeper, meet us on one of the coaching calls. We'd love to help you kind of uncover a little bit around whatever it is that you're going through right now. And we hope that this episode has served you and has given you even just one little nugget to pique your curiosity and get you going down the path of stepping into that higher impact version of yourself. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first, alignment matters, and the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.